Laws and bills being proposed in Michigan will only make the housing crisis worse as they punish landlords for an affordable housing crisis that was caused by the government. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Are you an aspiring landlord looking to buy your first rental property? Or perhaps you're a small real estate investor with one or two properties and you're trying to move up to the next level. You could use consulting, and I'm offering consulting here through Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. If you're interested, please send me an email at tony@northomahainvestments.com. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Michigan. So they're pushing a lot of anti-landlord laws up in Michigan this year, and I feel for the landlords up there because some of this stuff might pass, and it's all of the bad things that I'm always talking about. The same regulations and rules that they've already passed in a lot of the coastal areas, the more progressive areas. So they're trying to push this in Michigan, and I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea for a multitude of reasons. And the first being that, hey, discouraging development from a place that has a declining population, like Michigan, it has, very slow or even negative population growth. Okay. So, it's part of the Rust Belt. It is well known that the city of Detroit in particular is shrinking, and yet they're still pushing for laws that make it more difficult for investors to come in there and do business. That seems dumb. That seems really, really dumb. And my personal opinion is that, hey, they shouldn't even be looking at this stuff. The affordable housing crisis is caused by lack of supply, not by landlords. Okay, you're confusing the problem. You think that, hey, if the landlords do X, this will keep people housed. This will mean that less people will be homeless. No, it won't. No, it won't. And you can pass 100 laws, and the only thing it's really going to do is it's going to drive rents up. Yeah, it's going to do the exact opposite of what you think it's going to do, because every time you pass a new law, rule, or regulation making it more difficult to do business, we're going to pass our additional costs on to the tenants in terms of, hey, higher rents. That's right. Okay, so yeah, this is a bad idea, and I'm gonna break down this article and all of the little things that they're covering so that you can see exactly what they're proposing. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So are there any Michigan landlords on here? And is Michigan a more landlord friendly state or a more tenant friendly state? I'm just curious. I don't really know too much about the state. I would assume it would be more landlord friendly just by the fact that it's in the Midwest and not on the coastal areas. But you do have a very large, powerful area in Detroit where it could be much more progressive. Okay, I'll just keep it simple like that. So, but would you invest in Michigan? I personally would not. Even I remember a few years back, they had, just story after story of these super duper cheap houses that were for sale there. I mean, they might still be for sale up in Detroit, right? But all of the houses were located in, either neighborhoods that were completely destroyed, or if there were tenants living in those neighborhoods, and they were like war zones where violence and crime was going on all the time. And so yeah, you can go in there and get yourself a whole house for $5,000 or something crazy like that, right? And some investors were going in there and they were getting their their butts handed to them because they did not understand the market, and they didn't understand that, hey, this is not the kind of place where you can even $5,000. These places aren't even worth that. Okay. So anyway, let me get into this article. This article is coming from Mackinac.org, and it says, punishing landlords will make the housing crisis worse. Bills submitted in Michigan do little to solve the problem. And it looks like this article, it's an opinion piece written by a landlord or a landlord advocate, right? So somebody on our side for once. Okay, so anyway, let's get into it. Michigan has a housing problem. The cost of rent and mortgages have increased substantially in recent years. lawmakers want to do something about it. But unfortunately, many of their proposed solutions will simply make the problem worse. Dozens of bills have been introduced in Michigan this year relating to housing issues. Some are good, some are bad, most are minor. The media coverage of this issue has been decidedly uncritical. For example, WLNS reported that bills have been introduced to protect renters, with a renter's bill of rights set to prevent landlords from being able to discriminate against renters on the basis of race, religion, or criminal background. But the actual bill cited, which passed the State House in a wide bipartisan vote, simply requires government housing inspectors to notify owners and tenants of violations and how serious they are. Federal law has protected residents from housing discrimination based on race and religion since the 1960s. So yeah, basically they're giving the impression that some of these laws that they're trying to pass are, oh well, this will protect renters, but the laws that are already in place already do that, and there is nothing that these bills are accomplishing that, other than getting politicians votes. I'll say that, yeah. The whole point of these bills, these proposals, was to get votes, right? But there are some bills that they're proposing that, they're pretty serious for landlords, and that's what I'm going to cover here. So I'm going to skip down a little bit in this article so I can go over some of what they are proposing in the state of Michigan. Okay, so House Bill 4919 establishes a set of rights for homeless citizens. The proposed law is written more as a press release than an actual bill, with the bill's main effect being to open local governments to civil lawsuits. The proposal would give homeless individuals the right to use and move freely in public parks, sidewalks, transportation, and buildings, among other things. Right? So, there's this big focus on making sure that the homeless have enough rights and all that, right? And believe me, the homeless already have the ability to use the parks just like every other citizen of a city or of the state would have, right? The big problem is that, a lot of homeless people, well, I don't believe they should be allowed to just sit in the park, trash the place, harass the other people who are trying to use it, openly use drugs in there, openly commit crimes in there. No, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And when you pass this sort of thing saying that, it's telling people, hey, you're telling the police, don't even mess with these people because then you'll be open to a lawsuit, And so we could end up with a situation like they got in California where they basically let the homeless do whatever the heck they want. And that sounds awful. That sounds absolutely awful. But, I want to continue because there's more housing related issues there. House Bill 4062 and 4063 would make it illegal for landlords to consider a tenant's source of income when it's making rent decisions, as long as the income was not derived illegally. The bills would make it easier to sue property owners. Yeah, so basically they want to make it so that you can't deny Section 8. That's what this really comes down to, okay? It's coming down to they think they have too many landlords who don't want to participate in the Section 8 program. So they're going to say, oh, well, your source of income is Section 8, and now landlords are not able to refuse it, even if you don't want to participate in the program. Remember, Section 8 is voluntary. The federal government says Section 8 is voluntary, but they want to force you to participate in it. And if you choose not to, or if you tell the tenant you won't rent to them because they're a voucher, they're making it easier for the tenant to sue you. Yeah, that is pretty anti-landlord right there. House Bill 4891 ensures landlords reimburse rental application fees if a tenant is denied the property. It also makes it easier to sue property owners for violations. So yeah, they want you to return the rental application fee, even if you spent the application fee doing tenant screening, etc. Okay, this is how dumb. I mean, they don't even realize the fact that, hey, that money I'm using for application fees is because it actually costs money for me and for landlords to be able to screen the tenants who are applying for my units. Okay, it's not free. So why the heck would I have to pay it back? But this is the sort of thing that they never talk to any landlords when they come up with this stuff. They just pull this stuff out of their butts. Um, Senate bills 408 and 409, which limit the ability of landlords to recoup money they are owed. If a renter doesn't pay, a creditor can go through a process to garnish the renter's wages. This bill restricts property owners from garnishing funds coming from government benefits and places complicated new regulations on financial institutions that hold the funds of debtors. So basically, they're trying to make it so that you can no longer garnish a tenant's wages. So it looks like it doesn't just apply to landlords, it applies to other debtors as well. But this is a huge problem because there are tenants who will abuse the system and have the money to pay back the money that is owed to their landlords, yet will refuse to because they want to go spend it on something else. That is the whole purpose behind wage garnishment in the first place, basically to force their hand, force them to pay the debts that they owe back to the landlords, and now they want to take that ability away, and they want to make it so that, hey, if this person is receiving welfare, well, you can't garnish welfare. What a bunch of garbage. Okay, the tenant needs to pay the money that they owe, otherwise they wouldn't have their wages garnished in the first place. Okay. House Bill 4818 makes it illegal to use a prospective renter's credit score as a deciding factor. Yep, and see there we go right there. And once again, another place that's trying to ban landlords from being able to use credit scores or credit reports during tenant screening. Okay, now I absolutely hate that because we put one bad tenant in our property and we're out tens of thousands of dollars in damages, lost rent, legal fees, etc. Okay, that is why we use credit scores. That's why we use credit reports. And it's complete garbage that it's not fair. It's not fair. Believe me, I don't judge a tenant solely by their credit score. I don't think any landlord does. But we need to know that our tenant is going to pay us. House Bill 4878 makes it illegal to consider a person's criminal record when renting property. Yep, and there you go. There's the last final piece of the progressive, far left leaning anti-landlord laws. Okay, they want to make it so that we can't do background screening. Okay, I keep seeing this popping up all over the country. You shouldn't be able to check credit. You shouldn't be able to check background. They don't want you to be able to do any screening whatsoever. Okay, they think that you should just rent to the first person to walk through the door and just take the losses because, hey, you're rich, right? Right? Well, wrong. Okay, most landlords are not rich. Most landlords, they own one property. Some landlords don't even own a separate house. They actually just are renting out one bedroom or a portion of the house that they live in. So it is awful when you say that, hey, landlords have to comply with these rules and then put in awful tenants who can completely screw us over. So that's just what they're proposing in Michigan right now. Hopefully, a lot of this never sees the light of day. Okay. But I feel for the landlords up there. We could see which direction your state is turning.